Yes guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. So this video is going to be purely education focused, and I'm going to be running over how you can balance physique or body composition based goals whilst also working towards performance goals, and I'm going to be explaining exactly what that means later on in the video. If you're new to the channel, my name is Joe. I own an online coaching company called Athletic Aesthetic. I've strength trained for almost 15 years now, and I transitioned over to the more kind of hybrid style of training about 6 years ago. Recently ran a sub-3 marathon in Abu Dhabi whilst still working towards physique based goals. So within our coaching program, we work with clients all over the world. The majority of our clients are in the US. We have a lot in the UAE, which is where I live. We also have a lot in the UK as well. Pretty much everyone that we work with is working towards physique and body composition improvement goals. So whether they're trying to build lean muscle mass or drop body fat, and a lot of the clients that we work with as well are also training towards performance goals as well. So that could be literally just someone getting into running and wanting to run their first 5 or 10K. And we also do have clients that have completed 70.3 and even full Ironmans, and we have a lot of clients that are working towards marathon goals at the moment as well. So I want to make it clear, not everyone that we coach trains in this kind of performance style, but a lot of them do. But everyone is looking to improve their physique in some way. So balancing physique and performance-based goals at the moment in the industry, most people refer to it as hybrid training, whether you want to call it that or not. But essentially what this means is that you're balancing strength and endurance training to some degree. Now, that is a pretty broad term. That could be someone that does one run a week and then lifts weights 5 times a week, or it could be someone training for an Ironman where they're obviously doing a lot of endurance volume and maybe they're just doing one strength session per week. So what I always like to kind of get, clients and potential clients to understand is where do they sit on what I've kind of termed the hybrid training spectrum. So again, at one end you might have a bodybuilder who trains in that way, purely just strength training, and at the other end you might have an endurance athlete that basically does no strength training and loads of endurance volume. So I think it's very important for you to understand before you either write yourself a program or you go to a coach and look to work with them, that you are clear on your goals and where you kind of want to sit on that spectrum. So for me at the moment, I lift weights 3 times a week and I run 3 to 4 times a week. So at the moment, I've got a pretty even balance of working towards physique goals, maintaining my body composition, and also looking to improve my performance. And my main goals with performance improvements will be from the running side of things, to build my aerobic base and train towards more running race events in the future. So in terms of defining a physique or body composition based goal, pretty much most of the people that work with us within the coaching company, they usually start with a fat loss phase, because the longer term goal for a lot of people is to build lean muscle mass, and you want to be able to do that from what we call a lean position. So for most clients, we'll do at least an 8-week fat loss phase. Sometimes it can take up to 20 weeks to get their body fat down to a nice lean level to then transition them into a lean gaining phase. The majority of the people that come to us who are wanting to kind of follow the hybrid style training, so they're balancing the strength training and the endurance training, they would usually be working towards a fat loss phase, because I'm not saying that hybrid training makes fat loss easier, but naturally with hybrid training comes a high amount of expenditure. So if you control your nutrition and recovery well, your ability to lean down will be relatively easy when you are training in this way. So if you are looking to train in this way, physique and performance, as I said before, there's going to be a high amount of expenditure. There's going to be multiple training sessions throughout the week. If your goal was purely fat loss, you really could get away with just strength training 3 times a week, focusing on a moderate to high step count and then controlling your nutrition. But as I say, with this performance style of training, if you want to improve your physique and get better at the endurance style of training, you're going to need to be training, I would say, at least 5 times a week, so generally 4 to 7 sessions a week. Some clients do more when they're training towards an Ironman, but a lot of the people that we work with are, professionals in the kind of corporate space. They travel a lot for work, so for them it can be unrealistic for them to do that amount of training. Now, obviously, the training split that you would follow is going to be completely dependent on your goal, your current fitness level, the sort of training that you've done in the past, and as I mentioned before, time availability. because there's obviously different levels to program design. So if someone wanted to build muscle and get better at running, they could do that off 3 strength training sessions and maybe just 2 runs a week. Whereas if someone is more advanced and let's say they really want to progress their running, then we'd probably look at getting them to run 3, sometimes even 4 times a week. For me, because I've just come off the back of a marathon prep where I was running between 50 and 65k a week, I was doing 3 to 4 runs. If I wanted to then build my running fitness further, I would not be able to take my runs down to, for example, 2 a week. I would probably lose fitness. So understanding the context of yourself and where you've come from is very, very important when you are going to put together a program. So as I said before, I do follow this hybrid style training, have done for the last few years. I really kind of went all in on it. I think it must have been probably 2.5 years ago now, where I trained for, well, I prepped for a photo shoot, so I wanted to get leaner and get some content for the brand, and I was also training towards a half marathon PB at the same time. So back then I was actually doing a lot of training. I was doing 4 strength training sessions and 4 runs. I monitored my nutrition to make sure that I was in a deficit, and I managed to lose 5 kg, and I managed to sustain that and keep it off again because the output has continued to be high since then. So that is a lot of training to be doing, and it's definitely not necessary, but it's just the way that I chose to train back then. Now I actually do less strength training just because I'm not looking to build much muscle at the moment, but obviously I do need to still strength train a minimum of 3 times a week to maintain muscle. Now obviously a lot of people are following this style of training at the moment, and I think that's because people have just realized that it's a more quote unquote healthy way to train, and it promotes longevity. You're working on cardiovascular fitness when obviously you're doing your cardio work, and obviously you're building muscle mass, which is going to help, you know, maintain physique and improve posture for the long run as well, which is really, really important as you go into later on in life. As I mentioned before as well, you know, that this sort of training does come with a high expenditure, but hybrid training does not equal getting very, very lean and getting shredded. It can if you control your nutrition, but a lot of people start doing this style of training, they're not monitoring their nutrition properly, and then they actually start to overeat because, you know, activities such as running, it can spike appetite and it can be harder to recover from. So if you listen to your appetite sometimes when you train in this way, you can actually start to overeat. And I've actually seen a lot of people pick up running whilst also strength training, and they actually gain weight, which a lot of people thought would be the opposite of what would happen. If you are looking to improve your physique, so build muscle and drop body fat, and you're training in this way, I definitely would not recommend eating intuitively. I actually did this probably about 4 or 5 years ago when I started, and I put on like 3 kg over a few months because, again, I was running a lot. I was running maybe 40 to sometimes 45k a week, but I was just overeating without realizing. So again, if you are going to do this style of training from a physique standpoint, make sure to track your nutrition so you don't overeat when you're listening to your appetite, and also make sure that you are tracking to make sure you get enough protein, enough carbohydrates in the diet to actually help you recover as well. As I mentioned before, like when you are training in this way, it's a high amount of training volume. Recovery is going to be very, very important. So the food that you consume, it literally is fuel. So it's not just to aid your body composition and aid the way that you look, it's to help you recover from the high amount of training that you're doing, and also to help you perform in the training sessions as well. So when you are following this style of training, as always, really, even if you were in hybrid training, make sure to consume high quality, nutrient dense whole foods. Poor food choices will lead to digestive issues, and there's nothing worse than going on a run after eating poor food the day before, if you know what I mean. So your macros should be made up of obviously a high amount of protein. This should actually be the other way around. High amounts of carbohydrates, depending on the training volume that you are doing throughout the week, and a moderate amount of fats in the diet to aid hormone function and satiety and recovery as well. So even though this is the way that I have trained for the last few years, and it really is the style of training that I enjoy the most, only train this way if you want to. We get a lot of people coming to us who purely just want to improve the way that they look and they want to lean down. And I've said to people in the past, you know, I actually would not recommend running unless you actually really want to do it, because there are definitely easier, less taxing forms of cardio that will help you get lean versus doing running. So if I had someone that came to me, as I mentioned earlier on in the video before, who purely just wanted to drop body fat, I would get them to resistance train 3 to 4 times a week. I'd get them to elevate their expenditure from where it is at the moment. You know, so that could be some low intensity cardio, and definitely taking the step count up to 10k steps a day if they're not doing that already, and just purely focusing on the nutrition side of things as well. If you want to get better at running and you enjoy that style of training, then of course incorporate that into the plan, but it's definitely not essential. And obviously it's very trendy to train this way on social media at the moment. So I think a lot of people think that, you know, they're seeing people doing these marathons, these half marathons, Ironmans, Hyroxes. The guys are in great shape, but realistically they didn't build their physique doing this style of training. They've probably come from a sporting background where they've resistance trained from a young age, and they've more than likely probably done a period of, I would say, 3 to 5 years where they're focusing mostly on strength and hypertrophy training, so they've built their physique. It is a relatively taxing way to train. So there's definitely some days, for example, when I was training for my marathon, you know, I was doing my long runs on Saturday morning, upwards of 30k sometimes. It does leave you a little bit wiped on the day and even the day after. So only do this style of training if you genuinely want to and you really enjoy it. But I think, you know, touching on enjoyment, that is a hugely important part of getting yourself into shape or getting someone else into shape if you are obviously a coach. And if, you know, someone didn't enjoy their training, the chances of them missing sessions and things like that and being less compliant to a program are going to be higher. So if you enjoy this style of training, strength training and doing cardio such as running, then it is a really, really good way to train, and that's always going to lead to better results in the long run. So I do have other videos covering the hybrid style of training on the channel, and obviously if you have a look at a lot of the vlogs on my channel as well, you'll see me living and breathing this way to train, as I absolutely love it. But just to summarize, it's not essential in order to lose body fat and improve your physique, although it is a good way to train if you want to do that. If you are interested in finding out more about our coaching, you can either drop me a message on Instagram, the handle is there, or you can fill out the coaching application form in the bio of this video.